Hey, campfire crew, let's get it on. Running One Day by Dismal Manufacturer. In the early 80s, well before I was born, my mother was teaching in Jackson, Mississippi. It was a very hectic job, and she was glad to get back home every day a little after 3. The first thing she would do was change into her running gear and go for a run. She was never a fast runner. Normally she would do about a 10-minute mile, but she continued running because fitness is good. She started out on her run one day, but there was a problem with the door to the apartment she and my dad lived in. As she closed the door, the lock to the apartment gave her trouble in closing and locking. Every time she would leave or come back home, it would usually take her 5 or 10 minutes to get the door locked or unlocked. She and my dad often talked about getting the lock fixed on the door, but at that time they hadn't done so. But finally, my mom got the apartment locked, and off she went on her daily run. She was getting towards the middle of her run when suddenly a jogger came up beside her. He was tall and thin, had curly gray hair and blue eyes. He started off talking, asking questions like, "Where do you live? Do you jog every day?" After a few minutes, my mom began to get uncomfortable with the personal tone he was using while asking the questions, and she stopped answering them. Finally, she saw a street, and she knew that if she cut over on it, she could run back home. She told the man, "I gotta go now, bye," then turned down the street and started heading home. A few seconds later, she thought she heard footsteps behind her, and not wanting to turn around to see who it was, she continued as fast as she could, probably reaching a 9 or 8-minute mile as she flew home. Finally, she saw the door to their apartment building, and she ran up the stairs, saying to herself, "Jesus, Jesus, Jesus, help me." She got to the door, holding onto the keys, and slipped them into the lock as quickly as she could, and turned them. And the door opened right away. She ran inside, locked the door, and then pressed herself against the far wall of the apartment, completely out of breath. Seconds later, she heard a stiff but friendly knock on the door. "Who is it?" my mom said, her voice cracking. The gray-haired man she had met on the run said, "You know who I am, and you know what I want." Now my mom was completely and totally afraid, and she yelled back, "You better get out of here or I'll call the police." She didn't move, and a minute or two later she heard footsteps going down the stairs. No one else was in the apartment. After waiting a few minutes, still not moving, she was pretty sure that the man was gone. Across the street was a prayer ministry called Bethel House of God, and she called there and explained to them what had happened and asked if she could come over and if they would wait for her on the lawn. They said of course they would. She waited for a little while to give them time to get out onto the lawn. Then she rushed out of the apartment, ran down the stairs, and across the street. My dad didn't usually get home until maybe an hour or so later, but soon he got to hear all about my mom's afternoon. Sure enough, though, every other time after that, the lock would stick and take 5 or 10 minutes to fix. My mom was thankful how God got the lock to work immediately that one time. It Wasn't Our Moms by Confused Person. When I was 9, we lived in a remote, forested military area. Can't disclose too much for privacy, but yeah, let's just say spotting elephants, deer, and the occasional predator was a normal part of life there. One night, there was a formal event that our parents had to attend, and kids weren't allowed. So it was just me and my friend, I'll call him Carl, and we were both 9, and our younger brothers Sam and Duke, both around 5. Yeah, they're all made-up names. We stayed at my place and decided to watch Shrek. It was late at night and pitch dark outside because of the forest, and it was eerily quiet. Suddenly, the lights went out for a few minutes and then came back on. We were standing near the window when I heard Carl's mom calling out my nickname coming from outside. We lived on the 2nd floor. It was a strange, raspy voice, not normal, and what made it creepier was that barely anyone knew that I had that nickname. It wasn't something my neighbors would know. Cindy? Cindy? I asked Carl if he heard it too. He looked freaked out and said, "No, but I heard your mom calling my name." Carl? Carl? We both froze. There was no way our moms were anywhere nearby. They were at that party miles away, and we were alone in the house. The younger kids, Sam and Duke, said they heard the voices too, but us being 9, we assumed they were copying us or mishearing things, as they were still around 5. But we were all terrified. We tried to distract ourselves with the movie and waited for our parents to come home. And when they finally did, we told them, but of course they didn't believe us. They just brushed it off as imagination or dream. We all eventually moved on. Fast forward almost 9 years later. Carl and I met again, and we were reminiscing, and I brought up that night. And to my shock, he remembered everything clearly. His brother Duke did too, and my brother Sam only remembered bits and pieces. But it was enough to confirm that we hadn't imagined it. I still don't know what we heard or why, but it wasn't normal. And it wasn't just a prank or a dream. We heard each other's moms calling to us in eerie voices when they were nowhere around. To this day, I can't explain it. Fan fiction by Axolotl. Content warning: mentions of depicted deaths and rape. I'm mainly talking from my point of view, female of 25, and about the star psychopath, a male 26. I'll call him John. In high school, I had one of those stereotypical crazy friend groups that low-key ruin your life. I met him initially in junior ROTC, which was hell by itself, but John was something else. He immediately gave off all those red flags that tell you to stay away, and I tried. Unfortunately, we were paired for different tasks in the class, and during those times, John would tell me all sorts of things. It would range from wild stories about gangs he was in, to his dad getting murdered, and his grandmother getting hit by a bus. Not that those things didn't happen, but his facts would constantly change in his stories, and he would be laughing the whole time. The more violent, the more hilarious it was to him. I just tried to change the subject and put some space between us and hoped I never saw him again. I had a gut feeling that he was lying, and even if it was just for attention, he was making me uncomfortable. Lo and behold, I couldn't get any space from this guy, because after a few days, when I went to meet my friend group at lunch, he was there. I was caught off guard, finding out that he had become friendly with a couple of people in the group, and now I was stuck with him. Not wanting to leave my friends and not having enough reason to really put up a fight about him being there, I just sucked it up and moved on. Over the course of this guy hanging out with us, he became more touchy, more verbal about his physical abilities, like, "Oh, people are intimidated because I could beat the shit out of them," that sort of thing. I didn't like his vibe, and so I would constantly call him out on the lies that wouldn't add up, laugh at his stupid toxic masculinity comments, and so on. It would lead to arguments where he would separately message me saying shit like, "Not a lot of people can talk back to me. I'm impressed." That would make me want to puke with how entitled it was. Unfortunately, things just got worse. John became closer to one of my girlfriends, and they would disappear at events, leading her parents to call us asking where she was and freaking everyone out. Then John secretly led one of my guy friends on romantically, telling him that he was gay, and then tried to make others think my friend was crazy because he would never be with a man. It broke both of my friends with how John would play with their feelings and safety. Then, one friend confessed to me that John was sleeping in his car in my friend's driveway multiple nights without telling him, and that my friend was scared to sleep some nights because she was nervous that John would hurt her. I was done with it, and pushed harder about John getting kicked out of the group because he was becoming a problem. That's when one of the girls in the group, I'll call her Allie, found out about his Wattpad book. John had written a full novel. I think it was called Monochrome. It was about our high school and our friend group. It was based on him being colorblind, which I never believed, and him being able to see monsters in our school that we couldn't. He used our real names and our descriptions, and in almost every chapter he would write, in excruciating detail, it was about our torture and deaths. If our characters weren't killed by the monsters, then we were just permanently deformed. One of the friends lost her legs, and another her entire bottom jaw, all in brutal ways. I can't even begin to describe how much thought he must have put into how painful it would have actually been if it happened in real life. I've seen some pretty bad horror movies, but what he wrote was so much worse. When we found the book, I told him to keep my name out of it, and that he was an ass for writing it. He expressed to Allie that the book was therapy for him, and that he always felt better after writing in it. I was surprised that she kept talking to him after that, but I'm pretty sure she cheated with him, so I guess she was blind to it? I don't know. I felt crazy trying to prove that he was no good to be around, but it took everyone so long to realize how sick in the head he was. Then he started threatening people with violence. He tried to bring my friend into some woods before her dad showed up, and later I found out that he raped an intoxicated minor after graduating. I'd left my friend group long beforehand because he wasn't the only problem, and I realized that most of those people were not truly my friends. The group fell apart, and it took a long time for people to move on and heal. There was so much more that happened, especially with Allie, but John was probably the scariest one. I can't find that book anymore. I'm not sure if he deleted it, or that I can't remember the name right. But if any of y'all find it, let me know. What Happened to Me by Val. I'm hoping someone can provide some insight or consolation on some reasonable explanation, because even though it might not sound too crazy, this genuinely scared the shit out of me. I went camping a year ago with my friend, and this friend owned a big property, so we liked to go there and do primitive camping. It was a great time. Some nice Texas mesquite and cedar woods. We were enjoying our time making conversation by the fire and carving and whittling some logs and feeling the cozy mood as the sun was setting. Then my friend cut himself by accident with his knife, and we had parked the truck about a mile or two away. We had a first aid kit there, and he said he was going to go back to get the kit so he wasn't bleeding everywhere and it didn't get infected. It was a small cut, just one of those annoying ones. He's okay. So I was sitting there by the fire texting my girl, when the sunset got kind of dim from behind the trees and things started to get dark really fast, and I heard a sound, a whistle. Not a bird song, but a whistle that a person would make. A tune. Now, keep in mind, my friend had already been gone for maybe 5 or 6 minutes, so it couldn't have been him. All of a sudden, after hearing that, I just felt this dread, like this feeling that I needed to either square up and make myself known, or hide. I don't know what it was, but as I was hearing it, this hollow whistle, I felt so unreasonably afraid, and I consider myself a brave dude. I go out primitive camping all the time, even alone with my phone off. I've seen bobcats, mountain lions, mean hogs, but this whistle made me feel so unreasonably scared. I've never felt any sort of dread similar to it. I switched tabs to call my friend and tell him that he needed to come back, but he didn't pick up. I sent him a text saying, "Come back now, someone's here with us," and then I decided to stay quiet and lay low. I got down low to the ground, deep, slow breaths, fox-stepping to my dagger I had on a rock next to a tree. Then I stayed put. I noticed how heavy the air felt, if that makes sense, like I was moving through water. And then I noticed how silent everything got, except for the whistle. All of a sudden, flashes of memories came surging through my head. Memories of my family, my friends, my girlfriend, and my breathing started to get heavier. But my heart was slowing down for some reason. And just then, my friend came rushing back with his axe ready to go, and when he came out, so did I. The way I saw it, strength in numbers, but as soon as I saw my friend, the whistle ceased, and I asked him if he heard it, as it was very loud, and he said he hadn't heard any whistling. To this day, I have no clue what happened or how to rationalize it. My friend said maybe it was the wind going through something, but I don't think the wind could have a tune like a song does. Anyone know what that was? My Ex Stalking Me by Dino Stores. Let me just say, I was young and dumb when I met him. I'm 18 years old, and I met him when I was 16. I'd never been in a relationship before him, and I was a bigger girl and just had an extremely hard time getting guys to like me. I met him on Snapchat, and I didn't realize it then, but he had love-bombed the hell out of me. I was so lost in the feeling of being wanted that I ignored the extreme red flags. And after only a week of talking, he convinced me to meet him at his house to hook up. He lived almost an hour away from me, and I was a new driver. But anyway, how we met is not the point. He showed extreme signs of being a narcissist and even admitted to me that he believed himself to be a sociopath. But I never let the red flags keep me from leaving him. He was possessive over me and manipulated me into believing he was the only one there for me. Made me cut off my friends and even made me distance myself from my family. He cheated on me so many times, and I caught him 3 times. He admitted to me that out of the 18 months we were together, he was faithful for 3, which is bullshit. He cheated on me the entire time, and I had evidence, but in the end he kept lying to save his own ass. I have extreme abandonment issues due to my father. And my abandonment issues aren't only about me. I have a deep fear of abandoning people who need someone. And I thought this guy needed me. He was going into the Marines, and his ship date was late June of 2024. A few days before he shipped off, I proposed to him. I know, I'm fucking stupid. Don't get me started on how much I hate myself in that situation. But if you've ever been emotionally and psychologically abused, you can understand that you simply can't think about yourself and your safety. You think about what is best for your abuser, so that they're happy, so that they don't have a reason to abuse you. We made it through boot camp, and we sent letters all 13 weeks. It felt so magical to know someone loved me enough to stay true to our relationship through something as difficult as a long-distance military relationship. I loved him so much, I saved money to drive down to California to see him graduate. It was amazing and what I thought were the best days of my life. He was still quiet and reserved, and he always was. I never saw a problem with it because he was his true self when he was with me. When he came home from California, he lived with me. He had a bad relationship with his parents and made me believe he had nowhere else to go. And that was my mistake because once he moved in, I was truly trapped. He did RA late August to late October, and he shipped back off to California for his schooling, and so started our long distance again. One morning in March of this year, I woke up and checked my phone. If you've ever been cheated on and stayed, you just become paranoid. He had 2 Instagram accounts, one of which he blocked me on. I created another Instagram account just so I could watch his followers and his posts. And he started following more and more women. On that day, he had posted on his main account a story that was hidden from me. He posted a joke about cheating on your dumb girlfriend. Look, you don't joke about shit you've done, so again I sent him a message explaining just how unfucking funny it was, and how he knew how much that shit traumatized me. After I was done, I messaged girls he followed on his other account and learned he was on dating apps. After that, it was the end of us. There were 3 days of us communicating. On April 2nd, I took his belongings to his parents' house and blocked him. Told him to never contact me again. Everything was silent for a few weeks, and I was healing. This man abused me for almost 2 years. He made me believe so many nasty things about myself and my family. I would go into more details, but at this point, this shit is already a novel. But one night late in April, I got a text on my phone. Package arrived. I was confused and responded with a question mark. The number told me there was something on my porch. And when I opened my door, there was a notebook sitting there. Now, mind you, it was like 11 at night, so I was freaked the fuck out. Front to back, this notebook was filled with letters from my ex. I refused to read it. He had gotten out of the Marines on a other than honorable discharge, and he moved to the city next to mine. He hated my town and how desolate it was, so he moved 20 minutes away from me just so he could be close. He could have moved anywhere, but he moved to a town he hated just so he could be close to me. Also, he didn't have a car, so he rode his bike 13 miles just to drop that on my porch. I gave the notebook to my parents and messaged the number back to never contact me again and to never come near my house or else I would be calling the authorities. I blocked the number. That night I slept in my parents' bedroom. I cried so much. At 1:30 a.m., I got another message on my phone from a different number, saying, "Can you honestly tell me you've enjoyed this past month?" It took this psycho 3 hours to have a new number and start texting me again. I sent a very long, nasty message describing just how great my life was without him, and once again told him to not contact me. I had to change my number, my garage code, and my front door code. A few weeks later, I got 3 letters in the mail from him, all very possessive and nasty. One was a suicide note, describing exactly how and why he would kill himself. I called his city's dispatch and sent a wellness check. He was alive, and he told the officer that he was just upset. I had done a lot to try to get him into some sort of mental care, and he refused time and time again. I told the officer to tell him directly that if he contacted me again in any way, that I'd be filing for a stalking and harassment report. Lo and behold, a week or so later, I got a message on Facebook from a very, very fake account. All of its posts and information were clear indicators it was him. Unfortunately, I had to read that notebook he left on my porch, and holy fucking shit, when I say he was crazy, he was fucking crazy. In the notebook, he admitted to lying to me about attempting suicide, lied to me about being hospitalized, and lied to me about going into psych. He said it was better for me to believe us breaking up made him suicidal. He also admitted to a lot of illegal activity, and that he cheated on every single girl he had ever been with. The whole notebook traumatized me even more. I went to the police station and filed a report. 2 days after I filed the report, I got more letters in the mail from him. One admitted that he had watched me from a hill outside my house, and the other was him trying to return our engagement rings that I left with his belongings. He told me that it was smart to change my phone number, but that I could not change my address, so he would keep sending me letters until he won me over again. The last 2 letters were sent from a different state. That meant he'd moved away. I was very happy that I didn't have to worry about my physical safety anymore. But every week, I got more and more letters. He was obsessed with me, and I simply don't understand why. He cheated because some fucked up part of his brain wasn't satisfied with me, and now that he was without me, he was literally going fucking crazy. I never want to see that guy again. I'm terrified of him. I still look over my shoulder thinking he will be there, even though he has moved. Every time I get a call or text from a random number, I think it's him and panic, even though I changed my phone number. I have nightmares of him, and he mentally fucked me up so bad. I can only realize that now he's gone. I hope he stops sending me these letters, or that he goes to jail. This will happen to another girl if he isn't punished, and I want justice for myself. But I also want to protect any future girl. I truly fucking hate him, and wish the worst for him. Hey gang, thanks for listening to this episode. If you have a true scary story of any nature that you'd like me to narrate, email it to unclejosh.truescarystories@gmail.com. I read them all. If you're catching this on YouTube, please like the video if you did so. Leave a comment below. I'd love to know what you thought of the stories. And if you haven't subscribed, why not become a subscriber? Maybe even tell a friend about it. I'd appreciate it. Thanks for you guys sticking with me through all this stuff. Hopefully turning a corner here. New medicine is on the way that'll take care of this nonsense that I've got, and I'll be able to upload a little bit more frequently. Everyone, be excellent to each other. And until next time, be wary of things that go bump in the night. It could be anything. A ghost, a monster, or the guy next door.